step right up, chum, and watch the kid lay down a rubber road right to freedom!
Longtime subscriber and supporter of mine, in my last video regarding United States Attorney General Eric Holder, was interested in my thoughts on this Fast and Furious fiasco. And I cautioned that a lot of people would not like what I have to say. And he responded, times could be short. And so I'm just going to speak my mind on this. Now, what I would like anybody to do who is watching this is go ahead, before you respond, understand, and if anybody that knows me could probably tell you, anything that you're about to say in response to what I'm about to say, I've more than likely already thought of. And I've heard it all, and I understand, and hopefully you get a chance to understand where I'm coming from. But if you are so ate up and fortified in the one side of this discussion, then I don't know what to tell you. Don't be too offended. It isn't personal. It's just the way I see it. Now, again, Operation Fast and Furious was a criminal investigation process conducted by the ATF and, to a small degree, the FBI. And what its mission was to do was to attempt to track weaponry from the United States to Mexico. Now, here's the kicker in that situation. There was another operation before from the ATF referred to as Operation Wide Receiver, which did the same thing. However, in that case, there were methods of tracking the actual weaponry. In the case of Fast and Furious, they were letting them go in knowledge of them going, and the process was to actually wait for these firearms to show up at crime scenes. Now, a couple of things in what I'm hearing, and I just want to get some clarification, because I think this may be worthy of a Cut the Crap episode 2. Because Cut the Crap episode 1, if you'll recall, involved the Republican Party supporting the pioneer of socialized healthcare, as well as the pioneer of continuing an assault weapons ban in what was once our most freedom-minded state, that is Massachusetts. Why I say this is a Cut the Crap episode is because, all right, this situation, because it's people that all of a sudden are doing things that we don't want them to do, now all of a sudden it's these guns that have gone across the border that have killed people. Now hear me out. Either guns kill people or they don't kill people. It's not like they shipped these rifles and handguns across the border via UPS, and the rifles and handguns hopped out of the boxes and came out and did murder. Okay. This is a matter of some serious criminal behavior across the border in Mexico, as well as the bordering states of the United States. This situation involves confidential informants from the FBI, confidential informants for the ATF that work within these cartels. Some of these confidential informants, if you'll do your research, are actual high-ranking hitmen within these cartels. So check this out. The ATF catches a guy. They know he's a hitman, right? He's got all kinds of hitman shit in his car as he's doing his thing. And they say, hey man, we're going to take you in. And say, listen, if you let me go, I'll help you out later. And the situation is, they say, okay, I'll go ahead under the promise of you're going to help us out later. It's a very nasty business. And I understand you guys may not like Barack Obama. You may not like Eric Holder. But what is it? It's get a maniac to catch a maniac. And the ATF is definitely maniacal, that's for sure. Now, what do I think about this whole in contempt of Congress? Doesn't that sound weird? Doesn't that sound weird? When I hear contempt of Congress, I think, whoa, shit, I may be guilty of that. But I'm not in contempt of Congress. I'm in contempt of the behavior of people elected to the office of Congress. The actual congressional processes, I think, are well thought out and well planned, as well as that of our whole entire government. However, it relies on good people to take those stations, and it relies on a citizenry being vigilant and assuring that the right people are in those stations. Now, who does the United States Attorney General answer to? Is the House of Representatives and this committee that Congress and the Senate and House of Representatives assemble these committees. Now all of a sudden they're legal entities that can actually call people to the carpet. Check it out for yourself. See how constitutional that is. The way that the executive branch and the judicial branch are made to answer to the legislative branch is well displayed in the Constitution. So what's going on with all this is not a constitutional crisis in the least, okay? If anything, it would be a constitutional crisis if the Department of Justice were flipping over backwards to try to pander to the legislative branch. Now, I'm not saying it's right and I'm not saying it's wrong, but there are internal investigations that are currently in the process of investigating these situations. And one of the sources that I read, the first thing that the state attorney for Arizona said was that he wasn't going to be releasing anything because it pertained, the items that he was asked to release are actually being withheld due to a ongoing current investigation. Now, if you want to call that a cover-up, if you want to call that a conspiracy, I ask you to really take a look at yourself and see why it is that you're calling it that. And if it's just because you don't like the people that are doing it, then I don't know if that's necessarily a good enough reason. We are a nation of due process, and as a nation of due process, I believe that should apply to everybody. And in the case of U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder and President Barack Obama, I believe as American citizens, they are entitled to the exact same due process as anyone else. So there you go. Sorry if it messed anybody up, but this whole all of a sudden, Second Amendment pundits claiming that guns going across the border are killing people just really tweaked my melon, you know what I'm saying? All right, y'all. Take care. And if I don't see you again before then, have a great weekend.